Zhang Yi's bullets arrived. This time, Li dared not be complacent. His expression changed instantly as he dodged the barrage of bullets. Though I know you can't understand my language, I'll kindly warn you anyway. Physical attacks are essentially meaningless against me. After speaking, Zhang Yi instantly opened a dimensional gate. The gate of 3,000 realms summoned by everything under heaven had already formed a dense, 18-layered defensive barrier around him. This guy. Does he possess space abilities? Dealing with him will be a bit tricky. But I refuse to believe your defenses are completely flawless. Gritting his teeth, Li stepped into thin air, reappearing behind Zhang Yi in the next instant. His right fist drew back like a fully drawn bowstring, then slammed forward with brutal force, targeting Zhang Yi's dimensional gate. Boom! The massive fist erupted with terrifying explosive flames, hurtling straight toward Zhang Yi's alternate space. As long as my power is strong enough, no defense is impenetrable. Zhang Yi's right palm faced Li's direction. The terrifying blast of flames engulfed the sky like a sea of fire, leaving no space to retreat within a 10-mile radius. There's only one way to breach my dimensional gate. That is to instantly unleash power that shatters spatial boundaries, destroying one of my 3,000 realms. However, any power operating below the dimensional threshold, anything confined to the physical plane, will be absorbed by me. Then, reflected. This was precisely why Zhang Yi was known as the Absolute Defense. Beyond abilities rooted in absolute rules category, only those possessing power that absolutely surpassed his could breach his defenses. The burning fields were entirely swallowed by Zhang Yi into the dimensional space, only to be instantly returned to Li. Despite being prepared, Li was profoundly shaken by Zhang Yi's seemingly unbreakable defense. In the next instant, the sword in the tree erupted completely. Like a rapidly swelling giant tree, it spread out in all directions from Zhang Yi's right hand as its root. Boom! Thick roots anchored themselves across Nash Kingdom, drawing power from the earth before growing wildly once more. They coalesced mid-air into a colossal cage, closing in to strangle Li. While fending off the onslaught of his own power, Li swung his fists, smashing at the troublesome vines. Fiery flames consumed the vines, blazing fiercely. This should have been the most effective attribute against a plant-type ability user, yet at certain moments, it wasn't necessarily the perfect countermeasure. Li's actions caused the vines to form a vast sea of fire around him, trapping him within. I refuse to believe I can't smash through your tortoise shell. Though bound by vines, Li swiftly tore through the fiery cage with sheer brute strength. Glaring at Zhang Yi, he charged forward once more, his fists surging with powerful energy, determined to tear open a breach in Zhang Yi's defenses. Zhang Yi's reaction was remarkably calm. You're not the first to say that. And certainly not the last. His hand slowly covered his right eye. But let me remind you, what you've witnessed so far is merely my defense. Now, it's time for my offense. Though it's a pity you can't understand my language, as the first to experience my newly awakened power firsthand, I'm delighted to share my pleasure with you. He extended his right hand toward Li with a smile, then slowly snapped his fingers. This ability is called Divine Realm Netherworld Cleansing. Li knew Zhang Yi's attack was coming. Every muscle in his body tensed, adopting a fully defensive posture. Yet the next instant, that sensation of being crushed from all directions surged violently. From every point around his body, immense force surged, as if a colossal giant tens of thousands of feet tall had seized him in its fist and clenched down with brutal force. Crackle. Even the three-eyed clan's general couldn't suppress the sound of his body screeching under the crushing pressure. The internal injuries already forced deep within his body worsened significantly. Ah! Li finally couldn't hold back a wail of agony. His body twisted violently once more as blood gushed from his throat in great mouthfuls. Zhang Yi had now almost fully assimilated Senbamu's origin power. He had successfully broken through to the Black Chariot level, reaching the threshold of 20,000 points in his ability index. This new ability was an upgraded version of Divine Destruction. It completely distorted space across a vastly larger area. Invisible to others, within Zhang Yi's vision existed a void sphere spanning a kilometer in radius. Throughout this entire region, the space was warped, forcing all objects toward its source. The closer one gets to the center, the more intense the pressure becomes. The most terrifying aspect is that unlike Divine Destruction's skill wind-up, the Divine Realm Netherworld Cleansing can be cast instantly. This means that within a 3,000-meter radius centered on him, no one can evade the attack of Divine Realm Netherworld Cleansing, unless they possess special abilities. Crackle. The enhancement mutant's physique was tougher than steel. Even after bearing the brunt of Zhang Yi's Divine Realm Netherworld Cleansing at its epicenter, Li Ye refused to be subdued. He fought desperately to break free from the constraints. Yet his choice wasn't to flee, he charged straight toward Zhang Yi. As a close combat enhancement mutant, fleeing would mean forfeiting any chance of defeating Zhang Yi. He was smart, because against Zhang Yi, a dual time and space mutant, escape was pure fantasy. Never let Zhang Yi think you're weaker than him, or you'll suffer terribly. He couldn't win in a long-range fight, and crucially, he couldn't escape. His fierce combat instincts made him realize close-quarters combat was his only option. But, unfortunately, Zhang Yi slowly extended his right hand. Everything under heaven, 3,000 realms. Gigantic dimensional gates erupted from Zhang Yi's body, crowding the void world. Li Ye couldn't even get close before being blocked by the gate. He could sense the fluctuations in space. From previous battles, he'd already recognized these gateways connecting to other worlds. So Li Ye's choice was, break through head-on. Roar! With a thunderous bellow, he swung his fist, slamming it viciously forward. Terrifying ki energy erupted into a towering inferno. This strike contained 100% of his power. I refuse to believe your defense is truly invincible. Zhang Yi nodded. For the likes of you, it is indeed invincible. After reaching 20,000 points in his ability index, the defensive power of Zhang Yi's dimensional gate had surged beyond measure. When absolute force was applied to defense, the resulting enhancement was exponential. Li Ye's power couldn't even reach the threshold of what it could withstand. Thus, without a doubt, this punch was once again repelled. Boom! Li Ye was sent flying backward through the air by his own attack. If ki power is useless, then, his eyes flashed with ferocity. He now understood he had no retreat. Retreating meant being toyed with and killed alive by the strange spatial abilities of the creature before him. I'll have to fight my way out with my fists. Li Ye swung his fists and charged toward Zhang Yi once more. Zhang Yi raised his right hand lightly. Divine Realm Netherworld Cleansing. His eyes shone with a flowing radiance, allowing him to clearly see the trajectory of his supernatural power. He was all too familiar with every spatial shift. It was the collapse of an entire spherical space, collapsing towards the center. And at that very center stood Nash Kingdom's General Li Ye. Snap! Crack! The familiar sound of bones snapping echoed. Li Ye's face turned the color of liver, but this time he was mentally prepared. Roaring with fury, he forced himself to bear the crushing force and charged straight at Zhang Yi. The Divine Realm Netherworld Cleansing could not be used infinitely. It consumed large amounts of powerful supernatural energy, requiring a 5-second cooldown between activations. Seizing this opening, he closed in upon Zhang Yi's gate of 3,000 realms. Then, he slammed a fist directly into the dimensional gate. A flicker of astonishment crossed Zhang Yi's eyes. For in the very next instant, Li Ye vanished from his original position, entering Zhang Yi's dimensional space. Surrounded by a vast expanse of white, Li Ye gazed at the void where nothing existed, his eyes momentarily blank. Zhang Yi now understood his train of thought. In Li Ye's mind, since his chi-based attacks were being rebounded, perhaps attacking directly with his physical body might yield different results. There was an element of gamble in Li Ye's strategy. The saddest part was that he had gambled wrong. He had no idea what lay beyond those dimensional portals. It wasn't merely a capability to reflect bullets, it connected to 3,000 independent, distinct alternate dimensional spaces. What was even more terrifying, the flow of time within those alternate dimensional spaces was completely different from the outside world. A mere minute spent within could make one's mind perceive months passing in the outside world. Such torment was beyond what ordinary people could endure. But Leah was an exception. As Nash Kingdom's top martial artist, his willpower had long been tempered to a resilience unimaginable to most. He began searching the white void for its boundaries, then poured every ounce of his strength into pounding at the edges of the dimensional space. No flashy maneuvers, just his enormous fists, propelled by perfectly sculpted muscles, unleashing overwhelming force with each strike. Zhang Yi could clearly hear the slow, thunderous thuds echoing in his ears. His fists were swift. By the time flow within the dimensional space, he averaged one strike every 10 minutes. Unfazed by the environment, Li's gaze remained unwavering as he relentlessly pounded the barrier of the dimensional space, punch after punch. Zhang Yi watched silently. For at this moment, there was nothing he could do. 5 full minutes passed in the outside world. Had an ordinary mutant entered Zhang Yi's dimensional space, they would have died from mental collapse, if not suffocation. Yet Lia remained unchanged. Crack! A faint crack finally appeared in the white barrier. Lia slowly swung his fist, the motion resembling childish play, seemingly sluggish, yet brimming with explosive power. Another punch slammed into the barrier, shattering the entire world. Lia escaped the dimensional space through his own strength, standing once more before Zhang Yi. Clap clap clap. Zhang Yi clapped his hands, smiling at Lia with an approving gaze. Very impressive. Few have escaped my dimensional space. You are the second. At this point, he couldn't help but recall that guy named Phoenixrin. If that guy hadn't died back then, how powerful would he be now? This world once held too many geniuses. Perhaps if they hadn't perished, they all would have become formidable figures renowned across the land. But this world knows no what-ifs. The dead have no right to leave their names in history. A trace of arrogance flashed across Li's face. Your abilities are useless against me now. Their conversation remained one-sided, for while Zhang Yi understood Li's language, he deliberately withheld his own to conceal any information. This time, however, Zhang Yi instructed the intelligence system to translate into the language of Nash Kingdom. My dimensional gate number 3000. Care to test how many you can breach? Upon grasping the meaning of Zhang Yi's words, Li's smile vanished instantly, his crimson eyes narrowing sharply. Zhang Yi raised his hand. Divine Realm Netherworld Cleansing. Terrifying pressure surged from all directions. Within Zhang Yi's domain, this attack was utterly unavoidable. Lia endured another brutal strike, spitting out a mouthful of blood with a gurgling wah. Even shattering a single-dimensional space had drained him of immense power. He was no longer at his peak. It wasn't that his strength was insufficient. If he wished, he could uproot the entire Nash Kingdom with his bare hands. Yet his mountain-moving, sea-filling might was utterly useless against Zhang Yi's dimensional space, like punching cotton. Don't underestimate me. I am Lia, General of Nash Kingdom. Roaring with fury, he charged at Zhang Yi once more, refusing defeat. Again, he threw himself into the fray. He knew that if he could shatter all of Zhang Yi's dimensional gates, this scrawny little monkey before him would be entirely at his mercy. So, he was making a desperate gamble. You're stubborn, aren't you? But I'll give you this chance, to lose. Zhang Yi said. But in truth, he couldn't stop Li's approach. That guy wasn't playing by the rules. Every opponent he'd faced before would do everything possible to avoid his dimensional gate. Only this Lia was so stubborn. But courage didn't equate to strength. Using one's weakness to challenge another's strength was actually a very foolish approach. If my alternate space were so easy to break, I'd have been dead long ago. Zhang Yi remarked indifferently. Yet he hadn't anticipated this battle lasting nearly an hour. Lia brutally tore apart 32 of his dimensional gates with his bare hands, nearly double what Zhang Yi had expected. But that was still 100-fold short of shattering gate of 3,000 realms. Having exhausted his power, Lia resorted to charging with his flesh and blood. The enhanced vitality of the three-eyed clan proved too resilient. He actually withstood 13 consecutive Divine Realm Netherworld cleansing head-on. Though formidable, he ultimately couldn't match Zhang Yi's dual mastery of time and space. In the final assault, Zhang Yi's Divine Realm Netherworld cleansing crushed his already battered body into a blurred mass of blood. Even the most resilient form could not withstand such relentless pounding. The last of Nash Nation's 5 great generals had fallen. Zhang Yi collected the corpse. Having just absorbed Senmamu's origin, his body was now saturated. This origin would have to be absorbed gradually later. His gaze drifted toward the distance. Far away, Gao Changkong stood with the heavenly dancing treasure wheel spinning behind him. His eyes were alert, yet he wore a sly smile, ever ready to flee. In another direction, Lancelot's expression was complex as he stared at the sword in the tree in Zhang Yi's right hand, his teeth clenched in apparent irritation. Lancelot understood now, Zhang Yi would never return this sword in the tree to him. Yet his eyes held more than just annoyance, there was also a strange, playful gleam, full of meaning. Zhang Yi calmly retrieved Yang Xia's supernatural food from his alternate space, replenishing his depleted reserves. Having just endured such a fierce battle, the toll on him was immense. Yet he still grinned cheerfully in their direction. What? Want to join us? Fancy a little practice? Lancelot frowned. He had indeed considered it at first. Zhang Yi had slain Leia, but his own exhaustion was considerable. Acting now offered a chance to redeem himself and reclaim both the sword in the tree and Leia's origin. Yet his own wounds remained unhealed. Moreover, they only stood a sliver of a chance if Gao Changkong agreed to join forces. But now, seeing the utter calm in Zhang Yi's eyes, he ultimately dismissed the idea. First, he didn't trust Gao Changkong. Second, he had no reason to gamble his life on such a high-stakes wager. Lancelot turned and left without hesitation, but before departing, he spoke these words to Zhang Yi with a meaningful look. Don't get too cocky. You'll pay for your actions. Zhang Yi's brow furrowed slightly, then he raised his gun at him with a smile. Threatening me at a time like this? Are you an idiot? Lancelot's expression immediately hardened, and he accelerated his escape without hesitation. Bang! A black beam pierced the void, streaking toward Lancelot. Shield of Protection, Conqueror. Lancelot instantly summoned the Shield of Protection before him. Though his entire body was violently knocked backward, he used the momentum to flee. Zhang Yi watched his receding figure. This guy. He's gotten stronger than before. Looks like that fragment of origin he obtained has significantly boosted his power. With that, Zhang Yi turned his gaze toward Gao Changkong in the other direction. Gao Changkong hastily raised both hands, grinning. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm just here to watch the show. Spectating can get you killed. Zhang Yi's eyelids drooped as his voice grew cold. It's best not to act like this. Even if you kill me, it probably won't benefit you. Don't let others reap the rewards. As Gao Changkong spoke, his eyes signaled toward Lancelot's position. Though Zhang Yi had just endured a fierce battle, he was still confident he could take down another opponent. But doing so would indeed leave him vulnerable to a surprise attack from the other man. Not to mention, the battle between the Undertaker and Prince Anlet raged on above. He needed to preserve enough strength to escape this place. Gao Changkong, I have your man here. How about we make an exchange? Zhang Yi said calmly to Gao Changkong. Hearing this, Gao Changkong's eyes flickered with rare emotion. Batu is in your hands? Zhang Yi nodded. That's right. I intended to kill him, but he said you'd offer a generous reward for his life. Now it's up to your sincerity. Otherwise, he still dies. A wicked smile curled at the corners of Zhang Yi's mouth. I'll send him to Blizzard City. Guess what Zhu Zheng and his crew will do to him? Gao Changkong let out a bitter laugh. Let me see your hostage. Without hesitation, Zhang Yi had Mu Yan open the shadow space and brought out the tightly bound Tuesday, confirming Batu was still alive. Gao Changkong felt a huge weight lift from his heart. Chen Shaoxing was also dead. Now, among his old crew, only Guman and Batu remained alive. He paused, then retrieved a transparent glass vial from his person. Inside, a yellow gemstone shimmered with light. I'll trade this fragment of the source of God for his life. What do you say? Zhang Yi glanced at it. This portion of the source of God amounted to roughly 1/3 of a full unit. While insufficient to propel a mutant from Delta Tier to Epsilon Tier, it could significantly amplify latent potential. Combined with the complete source of God fragment he already possessed, this meant his team could gain another Epsilon level and one near Epsilon level mutant. That sounds like a fair trade. Zhang Yi had no reason to refuse. He held little regard for Batu's meager origin, so he promptly exchanged it with Gao Changkong. Then next, Before Gao Changkong could finish, a deafening explosion shattered the air. Both men looked skyward. They saw nothing, only sensing two terrifying forces locked in a deadly struggle. The battle intensified, spiraling beyond their control. The unleashed power began obliterating Nash Kingdom, reducing the upper two realms' cities to ruins. That overwhelming power and colossal pressure instilled deep dread even in Zhang Yi and his companions. With their current strength, they were absolute elites among humanity. Yet before these two combatants, they felt utterly powerless. Gao Changkong and Lancelot had already prepared to retreat. Should the Undertaker fall, they would leave this place without a second glance. Only Zhang Yi remained, his gaze fixed intently upon the sky. Gao Changkong and Lancelot could flee, but he absolutely could not simply walk away. For if the Burial Lord fell, Prince Anlet would inevitably descend to the surface. When that moment came, what would Prince Anlet do when confronted by the human race that had destroyed his kingdom? It would be a bloody massacre. And as far as the entire Huashu kingdom was concerned, there might not be a force capable of standing against Prince Anlet. Or perhaps only the mysterious Hotu in Xinjing could stop him. Zhang Yi dared not gamble on that. He would not allow any existence to disrupt his peaceful life. Pondering this, Zhang Yi deliberated for a long while before reaching a decision within himself. Whoosh! His form flickered, vanishing instantly from his original spot as he shot toward the dome above. His space shuttle range now reached 3,500 meters. After multiple traversals, he reached the surface. Judging by this distance, Nash Kingdom must lie at least 30,000 meters below the surface. No wonder one could only locate it through a special portal. But for Zhang Yi, spatial limitations were no problem at all. A chill washed over him. It wasn't physical sensation, but the thrill of seeing the snow-covered land once more. Standing atop the Great Snow Mountain, Zhang Yi utilized his intelligent system to send a message from the roof of the world to the headquarters of the Jiangnan region Blizzard City. "Hey, Commander Zhu, it's Zhang Yi." Zhu Jing answered the call before the second ring. "Zhang Yi, this is Zhu Jing. What's on your mind?" Zhang Yi's gaze grew solemn as he stated, "I wish to deploy a Reaper of Love." He presented his request directly, and upon hearing these words, Zhu Zheng's expression also turned grave. The Reaper of Love represented the most crucial reserve power currently relied upon by the world's major superpowers. Without such a weapon, their ability to restrain Epsilon-level mutants would be significantly weakened. Even the world's most extraordinary Epsilons would turn pale when confronted with such a superweapon as the Reaper of Love. Except for a handful of beings with special abilities, like Zhang Yi, who could temporarily seal himself in another dimension, all other carbon-based lifeforms would be incinerated to ashes by its terrifying explosion. And this was the best countermeasure Zhang Yi could devise against Prince Anlet. Even with 30,000 points of ability index, enduring a single strike from the Reaper of Love after battling the Undertaker would undoubtedly finish him. "I need to know exactly what happened." Zhu Zheng's expression grew unusually grave. He rose from his chair and questioned Zhang Yi, enunciating each word deliberately. Even if the person was Zhang Yi, Zhu Zheng had to proceed with utmost caution before deploying the Reaper of Love. Zhang Yi quickly explained the situation he encountered to Zhu Zheng. "We discovered an ancient civilization 30,000 meters beneath the snowy plateau. Once they emerge, they will pose an immense threat to all of human civilization, especially Huashu Kingdom. The individual capabilities of this race are terrifying. Essentially, every member is a mutant, and many high-level mutants have emerged among them. We must annihilate them. The consequences of failure are unimaginable. Zhu Zheng's mind processed this intelligence, quickly realizing Zhang Yi had secretly ventured into the southwest region to conduct operations behind his back. Yet hearing Zhang Yi's grave tone, Zhu Zheng understood this matter could not be delayed. After a few seconds of deliberation, he nodded. Agreed. Launch the Reaper of Love. He might doubt others, but he wouldn't question Zhang Yi's words. Because if Zhang Yi wished it, no one could stop him from launching the Reaper of Love. The Jiangnan region had plenty of factions eager to collaborate with Zhang Yi, easily replacing Zhu Zheng. In a sense, Zhang Yi was the true supreme commander of the Jiangnan region. His nod to Zhu Zheng was a gesture of respect. Zhu Zheng wasn't foolish enough to defy his will. But a depth of 30,000 meters underground? Even the most advanced human drilling bombs can't reach that range. Zhu Zheng raised a critical question. Zhang Yi lifted his head to glance at the sky. Then he said calmly, "Rest assured. Just launch it at the coordinates I specify. I'll clear the path for it." "Very well. When you need to launch, just give me the signal." Agreed. After speaking, Zhang Yi did not rush Zhu Zheng to launch the Reaper of Love. That was a backup plan. It would only be deployed if Prince Anlet proved utterly beyond his reach. Otherwise, Zhang Yi had no desire to erase Nash Kingdom from the earth entirely. After all, he intended to observe Nash Kingdom to glean intelligence about ancient civilizations. Just as Zhang Yi prepared to depart, his gaze inadvertently caught a distant point of light. Focusing his eyes, he realized the glow originated from Sangha Temple. A powerful force of will, visible only to those with extraordinary abilities, surged into the depths beneath the great snow mountains. Yet slowly, that immense power began to dissipate. It was the light of fire. The glow Zhang Yi witnessed was intense and majestic. Sangha Temple, standing tall for millennia, was now being consumed by flames set by long resentful followers of the esoteric sect. The steadfastness of their former faith was matched only by the terror of their present fury. The movement ignited by the resistance army was now raging fiercely across the entire snowy plateau. To thoroughly purge the feudal forces that had plagued the snowy region, they must destroy every symbol of aristocratic and monastic power. And Sangha Temple stood as the most sacred site of the Tantra. Only by destroying it could the people's obsession with the Tantric sect be utterly extinguished. "This is bad news," Zhang Yi muttered under his breath before reactivating his space shuttle to descend underground. After some time, he arrived at the battlefield where the Undertaker and Prince Anlet were locked in combat. Prince Anlet, fighting in his Nasta avatar form, resembled a colossal beast. His long, muscular frame, dark red in hue, and lengthy tail even reminded Zhang Yi of a creature from ancient times, a dinosaur. Enveloped in golden willpower energy, the Burial Lord, in human form, clashed head-on with the massive Prince Anlet. His indestructible golden body made him as powerful as a god. But suddenly, the ceaseless flow of wish energy began to wane, placing the Undertaker at a disadvantage for the first time in their duel. Prince Anlet, in a ferocious stance, pointed his right index finger at him. An invisible energy surged from the slender red fingertip, shooting toward the Undertaker and exploding violently within a radius of thousands of meters around him. The blazing golden light surrounding the Undertaker slowly dissipated. Zhang Yi saw confusion in his eyes, as if he couldn't comprehend why the wish energy was fading. The only silver lining was that after their prolonged, life-or-death struggle, Prince Anlet had also sustained significant injuries, drastically reducing his combat effectiveness. Zhang Yi frowned at the sight. Just as Prince Anlet prepared to strike, Zhang Yi extended two fingers of his right hand toward him. Divine Realm Netherworld Cleansing. Prince Anlet had sensed Zhang Yi's presence long ago, yet Zhang Yi simply didn't exist in his eyes. To him, someone of Zhang Yi's caliber was nothing but a mere insect. But he never anticipated that this single move would instantly freeze his body rigid in place, crushed violently inward by immense force. For a fleeting instant, his muscles and bones protested against the sudden constraint. Boom! Prince Anlet erupted with power, violently ripping free from the divine realm netherworld cleansing's grip. He shot Zhang Yi a cold glare, but before he could strike, Zhang Yi had already vanished into the distance. What followed was the Undertaker's assault. Chaos, you've grown stronger? Though wounded, blood trickling from his mouth, the Undertaker smiled as he conversed with Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi frowned at the blood at the corner of his lips. This time, the Undertaker's wounds remained untreated. As he had anticipated, the faith-based power from Sangha Temple, a might accumulated over millennia, was now slowly dissipating. The battle between the Undertaker and Prince Anlet was so blindingly fast that even Zhang Yi had to rely on the ability of everything follows the trail to observe their combat trajectories. But at this moment, he absolutely did not wish to clash with either of them. His only option was escape. When you can't hold on any longer, just give me a shout. I have one final move to deal with him, Zhang Yi said to the Undertaker. Hearing this, hope flashed in the Undertaker's eyes, and he nodded with a smile. That expression was as if it were meant to be. I knew it would be you, Chaos. No, perhaps I should address you as Grandmaster Padmasambhava. Zhang Yi's face was a blank canvas of confusion. The reincarnation of Grandmaster Padmasambhava? He couldn't help but recall the legends of the Snowy Plateau. In the distant ancient era of the Demon Kingdom, it was with the aid of Grandmaster Padmasambhava that the heroic King Geezer overthrew the tyrannical regime. Even the eternal barrier separating the two realms, and the Vajra pestle wielded by the Undertaker, were forged by that very master. Zhang Yi chuckled. I'm no one's reincarnation. I don't buy into your tantric sex nonsense. The Undertaker did not respond, for he now had no time to converse with Zhang Yi. Prince Anlet's assault echoed through the skies like a violent hurricane, its overwhelming pressure devastating vast stretches of the city. As the Burial Lord's willpower slowly dissipated, he began to falter, his wounds multiplying. Yet Zhang Yi had no intention of calling for help just yet. For the Reaper of Love was already the last resort he could conceive. He had to wait until Prince Anlet was pushed to his absolute limit. No, perhaps more accurately, until the Undertaker was forced to exhaust his very last shred of strength. The sudden shift in the battle's momentum high above was felt distinctly by every human in Nash Kingdom. The once blazing golden light, radiant as a Buddha, was fading. In its place, a terrifying, azure-like force had gained the upper hand. Undertaker. Is he losing? The private soldiers of the four great families trembled, their voices quivering as they struggled to accept what they sensed unfolding before them. No! This cannot be. The Undertaker will surely subdue the demon god and bring peace to the Tantra. Many devotees pressed their palms together in prayer for the Undertaker, though this offered little solace. Prince Anlet's assault was too fierce. Even Zhang Yi, now elevated to the rank of Black Chariot, could only disrupt him, unable to inflict genuine damage. If he struggled like this, Gao Changkong and Lancelot would be even worse off. Unlike Zhang Yi, who possessed formidable life-saving abilities, the two dared not even approach. They could only watch from afar, waiting for the right moment to either flee or strike at Prince Anlet. Prince Anlet swiftly gained the upper hand, shattering the golden light enveloping the Undertaker. Vacuum waves. Prince Anlet unleashed dozens of vacuum waves in rapid succession. The intangible energy shot forth like droplets of water, then rapidly expanded around the Undertaker's body, coalescing into a void sphere thousands of meters in diameter. The rapidly expanding and exploding energy dealt devastating blows to everything within its reach. Zhang Yi's brow furrowed slightly. It's about time. Without hesitation, he flew downward, immediately storing the private soldiers he'd brought from the Paji family into his shadow space. Undertaker, hold on a little longer. 1 minute, no more than 1 minute. After uttering these words, Zhang Yi pierced through the dome, hurtling straight toward the ground. Gao Changkong and Lancelot noticed Zhang Yi's unusual behavior. Though they didn't know what he intended to do, they understood the gravity of the situation. They had to escape. Without hesitation, the two led their men toward the entrance of the abyss. While they couldn't perform space shuffle like Zhang Yi, they could use the teleportation stone platform at the abyss entrance to leave. Upon returning to the outskirts of the Great Snow Mountains, Zhang Yi immediately commanded Zhu Zheng, launch the Reaper of Love. Understood. Zhu Zheng, already prepared on the other side, waited only for Zhang Yi's order. He swiftly inserted the black key into the console, unlocked it, and pressed the button he had once believed he would never activate in his lifetime. Within the steel forest-like Blizzard City, a hidden corner slowly cracked open, revealing a massive circular passageway. Rumble. Its speed rapidly increased, then it shot straight toward the southwest region. This commotion was simultaneously detected by major factions worldwide. Yet in these turbulent times, the deployment of the Grim Reaper of Love was no longer a rare occurrence. As usual, inquiries about the situation poured in from all the major regions, but Zhu Zheng set them aside for the moment. At the top of the Great Snow Mountain, Zhang Yi gazed skyward, his fist involuntarily clenching. Even for him, this was a first. He knew his own capabilities well. Yet no one could remain utterly calm facing such a thing. I must seize the right moment. Otherwise, it could be life-threatening. Zhang Yi cautiously reminded himself. Not long after, he spotted the fiery trail beneath the distant clouds, its long tail streaking rapidly toward them. It's coming. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and instantly activated the dimensional gate passage, creating an entrance for the Reaper of Love's descent. The bomb would reach its designated area and detonate. Zhang Yi led the way, guiding the massive, devastatingly destructive Reaper of Love deep into the world beneath the abyss of demons. Meanwhile, Nash Kingdom lay in utter ruin. Vast swathes of buildings and city walls had long since been shattered beyond repair. The Undertaker lay covered in wounds, visibly struggling to hold on. Zhang Yi dove down, bellowing at him, "Luozhua, Zhugo, follow me." The Undertaker and Prince Anlet simultaneously looked up at Zhang Yi, their gazes meeting the massive, oddly shaped black pillar pursuing him. What is that thing? Prince Anlet's eyes betrayed his confusion. He sensed no terrifying pressure emanating from the object, but since it was a weapon brought by their adversary, it must possess some unique quality. Is it a weapon? He murmured to himself, perplexed. He wasn't alone in his uncertainty, the Undertaker also didn't know what it was. Yet, seeing the urgency and tension in Zhang Yi's eyes, he vaguely grasped something. A blood-stained smile touched the Undertaker's lips as he charged toward Zhang Yi with all his might. Prince Anlet's brow furrowed. His form flickered in midair, breaking the sound barrier as his massive fist slammed toward the Undertaker's head. At that very moment, a ghostly, ethereal figure materialized from the Undertaker's body. Vaguely discernible was the shadow of a towering man clad in ancient battle armor. He smiled at the departing Undertaker, then turned to stand before Prince Anlet. This legendary being, having waited 1,000 years, finally separated from its so-called reincarnation at the last moment to embrace its final mission. Prince Anlet was momentarily blocked by the phantom. That instant was enough for Zhang Yi to seize the burial master's arm and swiftly pivot, darting skyward. Pfft! Prince Anlet's right arm sliced through the air like a sword, tearing the lingering phantom to shreds. But just then, the massive, heavy black pillar, its tail engulfed in raging flames, plunged toward his position. Is this thing their secret weapon? Prince Anlet stared wide-eyed at it, a mocking sneer curling his lips. They think this can take me down? They've seriously underestimated Nash Anlet. He didn't dodge, knowing even his fastest dash would be futile. But there's a saying, ignorance breeds fearlessness. He had no clue what this weapon meant to the human world. In this moment, he felt like a god, invincible under heaven. So he clenched his fist and slammed it with all his might into the massive black metal pillar. Zhang Yi, carrying the Undertaker along with him, ascended faster and faster, higher and higher, relentlessly climbing. Prince Anlet's fist struck the top of the black metal pillar, piercing through it effortlessly. A smug smile touched his lips. But in the next instant, an unimaginable, Primal terror erupted before his eyes, an overwhelming, terrifying power. Energy exploded at a singularity point. The skies above Nash Kingdom seemed to ignite with 10,000 suns simultaneously. This light illuminated the world, which had been shrouded in perpetual gloom. The white radiance dispelled all darkness, illuminating even the deepest underground caverns with piercing clarity. Accompanying this blinding light was an unimaginably potent energy, a searing heat capable of instantly melting steel, sweeping outward in a devastating wave. Boom! The shockwave swept through. Prince Anlet, standing at the very epicenter of the explosion, was reduced to molten flesh in an instant, his bones and organs exposed. Merely a moment later, his entire body was reduced to ashes. This was not the initial version that had landed on the island a century ago, but the latest model, tens of thousands of times more powerful. A single one was enough to obliterate this nation of hundreds of thousands.